Hey guys, so this is our brand new 2022 Toyota Tundra, and in this video we are talking about the technology, specifically the screen on the inside, and we're going to discuss the pros and some of the challenges we've been facing using the tech in the new Tundra. So when it comes to tech in the new Tundra, we're going to start by focusing on one of the coolest pieces of technology that should be super easy to use and super thought-free, but which can actually be a little bit challenging if you don't know what to expect. We're talking about the user profiles. Now, the user profiles are pretty cool. I've got the owner's manual here. What those allow you to do is essentially set the truck up for individual drivers so that when you hop in, the preferences are exactly as you want them. Quote, by registering a user profile, you can save the driving position, air conditioning, multimedia, and various other settings as a profile for each driver. Now, that sounds like a cool piece of tech, and it should be pretty easy to use. Unfortunately, getting it set up can be very challenging, and once it's set up, sometimes it can be a little bit confusing as well. Now, my father Roman currently has a user profile set up connected to his phone, but let's see what happens when we turn the truck on. Now, the big 14-inch screen is going to come into life, and the first thing we're going to have to do is clear a liability warning, drive safely, and obey traffic rules. All right, that's pretty standard within the industry. So once we have the option, it will clear itself, and then it will default to this screen. And this is where things get very frustrating. This screen has been a constant issue of ours. Profile not loaded, guest mode activated. And let's see what that means. So it has defaulted to a guest profile. And what that means is that the truck does not automatically default to my dad's settings. So the audio settings, for example, are not to his liking. Perhaps the seat setting is not to his liking, even though the phone is currently in the car. And as you can see, the phone is currently Bluetooth to the truck. Road Chaser connected, that's his device. It still doesn't default to his user profile. So what we're gonna have to do instead is go back into settings and then manually click saved profile, and then now once we do that, we can have it adjust the seats to his liking, and it says welcome Roman Micah, your settings are all saved. And now I think you'll find that all of his presets and all of his audio and system settings are where they need to be. But it is very frustrating that the truck is currently defaulting to a guest profile instead of one of the saved profiles. Now, Andre is a whole nother story. He is set as the primary driver, and for whatever reason, his profile won't load whatsoever anymore. His phone is just not communicating with the truck, and it won't load his profile at all. So that's extremely frustrating. Now, the one way I have figured out a way around this is actually in the settings. So if I go into personal info, you can see that the current driver, Roman Micah, is paired with the Road Chaser device, that is his phone. But if I go into key, I can actually link the key. And what that means is now the key for the truck is going to be associated with his account. So what that means is that if I get out of the truck, hop back in, start it up, rather than defaulting to a guest profile, it's actually going to link the key to his account, and now it should start up with his profile. And that is great. There you go. Welcome, Roman Micah. Your settings are being loaded. So it automatically went directly to his settings. It went directly to his music as well. So that is the one way I have figured out how to automatically load a profile, is to go into personal info and then link the key. And that's great, but what if you have three drivers? So for example, Andre could have a key, link it to that key. My dad could have a key, link it to that key. But then what about me? I don't have a third key to this truck. How do I create a profile whatsoever? Well, that I think is quite a confusing process. So the multimedia owner's manual for the Toyota Tundra is very detailed in the profile setting section about how to, for example, register a user profile for the first time. So you just bought the truck off a lot. It's also pretty detailed in automatically loading a user profile, although I haven't been super successful with all of that information. And then it's also got some troubleshooting stuff and some settings and ways you can mess with it. Now, I've read this pretty carefully, but one area where it's a little bit confusing is how to add a new profile. So for example, Andre is a primary driver, maybe my dad is a secondary driver, but I also drive this truck as well, and I want my phone linked as a set profile. Well, this is where we're gonna have to do some experimentation to figure out how this works. Now, the first thing I've done is actually download and set up my Toyota account on the app. It asks for some information. You can set it up with Face ID. It's just like another account that you set up, super easy to do. And then the cool thing about this is, in theory, I can save my profile to not only the truck, but my phone. So if I get into another Toyota, I can have my settings actually link to another vehicle, which is cool. But this is where it's frustrating. So I've got my Toyota profile set up. It should detect my profile in the truck. At least I think so, just by clicking search there. But I don't believe it's going to have much success in doing that. So what we're going to do is go into the Bluetooth and actually add my device. So let's go search for devices. There it is, Toyota Tundra. Add my phone. Yep. Confirmation code looks good. Let me make sure I've got the correct app, and it took me right there. All right. So now what it's going to do is it went to essentially the camera on my phone, and it says inside your vehicle, hold your smartphone camera over the QR code on the multimedia screen to start the setup process, the scanning process. Clearly there is no code. There's Apple CarPlay, but there's no code that is being generated on the screen. All right, well, let's try doing it another way. So if I go into this Toyota app, I can also add a vehicle on this way, scan the QR code. It's not pulling up a QR code, but I can enter or scan the VIN. So let me do that. All right, so I'm going to use the barcode, bring it on down to my VIN, plugs it in, and then add vehicle. So I scanned the VIN. I thought it would be ready to go, but now it brings me to this thing that says scan QR code. I hit continue, and we're back. We're back to this thing with no QR code showing up on the screen, and it can't detect my profile, which I'm finding to be very confusing. Oh, here we go. Now we got something. All right, Thomas Micah. Let's see what this does. Okay, so I have a pin set up in the app. It says success. All right, welcome Thomas Micah. Okay, this is good. So we did get it to work. Continue. So now look at this. We have 3 profiles saved. Would you like to pair your mobile device? I already did that. It's this one. All right, so let me make sure we are paired to the truck. So we are paired on the Bluetooth side of things. Let's see if we are paired on the user profile side of things as well. It says we are. Personal info. Thomas's iPhone is connected to my profile. So now here is going to be the moment of truth. Let me go ahead, turn the truck off, get out, and see if using my phone only, if it'll revert to the only profile currently in this truck. My dad is somewhere else. Andre's not in here. Let's see if it'll automatically connect to my phone or if it's going to divert to the guest screen. Okay. Come on, Toyota. Welcome, Thomas Micah. Your settings are being loaded. Well, that's great. Why is that not working for my dad's phone? That was good. So the profiles, in theory, are one of those things where they take some time to set up. The owner's manual could be much clearer on how to add a new profile. It still is like a lot of experimentation. It took me 2 or 3 times to load my dad's phone into here. Andre thought he was good to go, but then for whatever reason, he can no longer use his profile whatsoever. It's become like disconnected from the truck or his phone or something. Got to figure that out. It's a can of worms for another day. And then this one took me 1 try and I got it working, but it's a little bit cumbersome to use. And the other thing too is if you look in the manual, for example, at the troubleshooting page, your Bluetooth setup has to be turned on and your Toyota app is running on the device. Now, I personally find that to be a little frustrating. I don't like having apps run in my background, but according to this, in order for the save profile with Bluetooth to load, I do have to also have the app running in the background. So, profiles on the Tundra are kind of frustrating. The other thing which has been quite confusing is the navigation system. So here's why the navigation system has been confusing. So we have navigation right now. You can clearly see we've got the map all ready to go. We can search for things. We can use our voice to search for things. When we bought this truck, we did not equip it with navigation, and when we brought it home, it had this alert saying, your truck is not equipped with navigation. It was an extra fee, which we didn't do. And then randomly, it started working, and now we have navigation. Or did it? Because a few days ago, we got the message again saying, pay more for navigation. And then yesterday, navigation has decided to show up again for the party. So I'm not really sure how we have navigation or why we have it, but it's here. However, once you do have navigation, it's easy to use, it's pretty fast, and the screen quality is excellent. You can search for stuff using your voice. Now, the audio pages are excellent in the Toyota, very easy to use. I do wish there was a tune knob. That would be a nice thing. You can search for FM stations, AM stations using this little kind of dial to plug in the different channels, or this little number pad, I should say. However, a tune knob would be preferable, and then you can save stations by adding that little like up here. Phone connectivity, once you get it connected, is easy to use. And then you also have vehicle settings such as fuel economy, as well as trip information, and then we've seen plenty of the setting screens down here. So overall, I do like the screen, but the profiles have been a little baffling. It's been a whole day trying to get them to kind of work, especially with my dad and Andre's profile. Mine worked quicker, and they're easy to delete as well, as long as you're not trying to delete the primary driver. So that's kind of how that works as well. Still got to get Andre's working, but that's kind of our first initial impressions with the profile. It's just frustrating, or it was frustrating before, having to click that guest profile dismiss every time, even though my dad was hooked up. But here we are, mine seems to be working pretty well. Now, once you get everything set up to your preference in the Tundra, especially if you're the only person driving, and especially if you have all your preferences linked to a key, it's pretty thoughtless. You get in, it'll adjust your seat, it'll put on your favorite presets, and off you go. However, if you need to add or adjust or customize profiles, diving into the menu can be very confusing, and I personally don't think the owner's manual does a very good job of explaining how things work in clear and concise details. Now, of course, this truck is expensive, $57,000. I'm fairly tech savvy. I'm not, you know, a crazy whiz, but I'm also much better than like my mom. But I could never afford this truck. My mom could, and I just know that that whole user thing would freak her out, and she would never touch it. So something to keep in mind there as well. If you hate tech, that 14-inch screen is good, but you do kind of have to understand how stuff works, or you're going to be clicking a lot of dismiss buttons and going to the wrong menus pretty quickly. Well, let me know what you think in the comment section below. As always, this has been Tommy with the Fastlane Car and the Fastlane Truck. Check out TFL-studios.com for the latest and greatest in new and used vehicle reviews. And also check out our podcast. Andre and Nathan have been killing it over at the TFL Podcast, talking trucks. So check that out on all your usual podcast platforms.